Welcome, Facebook live stream viewers. I am especially excited to have you backstage with me on Change It Up Radio because in the studio with me is Stephan. Am I pronouncing that
Absolutely
correctly?
perfect.
Oh, good. Give her the opportunity to say a quick hello to you, and you'll be hearing a lot more from her in just a little bit on the show.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Paula. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited that you're here with us because the solution to end modern day slavery doesn't just lie with me and my amazing team, but with everybody out there taking a stand. So I'm very excited to have you here with us today.
Yes, so please stay with us. Also joining us a little later will be Adam Dodge, who is the founder of NTAB, which is a nonprofit all about helping people who are experiencing technology-enabled abuse. He is also training people to help them be alert and to be able to help people going through this. So please stay for this show. There's a lot to learn and some great people to meet. We will be starting the show in just a moment.
Tired of the rut you're stuck in, but don't know what to do?
Change it up! Join life transitions therapist, speaker, and best-selling author Paula Shaw. She'll be exploring topics that make change and the challenge it presents smoother and more productive. She'll also be spotlighting change makers who are leading the charge to make the world a better place. If you're ready to live a more exciting life, at home, in the workplace, and around the world, it's time to step out of your comfort zone and change it up. Now, here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw. I am especially delighted to have you here with me today because I have some very, very special guests who are doing some very important work. With me today will be District Attorney, San Diego District Attorney Stephan, who has devoted her life to protecting children and families and providing justice to the voiceless and most vulnerable people in our society. She is a national leader in the fight against sexual exploitation and human trafficking and has served as a prosecutor with the San Diego County District Attorney's Office for 30 years. She will be with us in just a little while. And a little later in the show, we'll be talking with Adam Dodge, founder of NTAB, which is a nonprofit dedicated to addressing the existing and future threats posed by technology to victims of crime and gender-based violence. We have a lot to share with you today that's very, very important. So I'm really happy you're with us, and please stay with us. You're here on Change It Up Radio. As most of you know, I'm Paula Shaw, and I am an author, the author of Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. I'm also a speaker and a life transitions coach. So this show and my work are all about helping people deal with change, the upheaval of change, the discomfort with change. We try to help guide men and women to experience change more productively and more smoothly. And this show is also about spotlighting change makers, people who are trying to make the world a better place. And that's who I have brought to you today in Stephan and Adam Dodge. So it's going to be a very powerful show. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is human trafficking. Summer is fighting hard to change what is going on out there in human trafficking. And for those of you who may not be totally familiar with this term, human trafficking is a crime in which one human controls and exploits another through the use of force, deceit, or coercion. Victims are often forced into labor or sex acts to repay an undefined debt. And once this trap begins, children, unfortunately, are especially vulnerable to this crime. And once that trap begins, once this downward spiral begins, people find it very, very difficult to get out of this situation. This is what Summer is fighting for and what she's trying to change. One of the reasons that people get sucked into this sexual exploitation and human trafficking, one of the causes is poverty. Sometimes an individual is trafficked because their family is extremely poor, and desperate people sometimes make desperate choices. Another reason is ignorance. Summer will be explaining a lot to us about how this cycle can begin, especially with young teenage girls. And it's just heinous how they get sucked into this situation and then they feel there's no way out. So one of the reasons I was really feeling strongly about bringing this show to you today is because we need to be educated. We need to be educated about how this happens. We need to be educated so that we can fight for our children, so that we can make sure that our loved ones don't get trapped into situations like this. I'm calling this show today a tangled web of abuse because, interestingly enough, one of the central places that the abuse begins is the internet. We all need to be better informed about what can happen online so that we can protect the ones we love. I personally right now know and have worked with people who are being cyber stalked, who are being stalked online. And one of the things that is so frustrating for me when I see this going on is that the hands of the law seem to be tied in many ways. You know, I know victims who've gone to the police and the police say, well, you can take out a restraining order, but as long as there's been no physical attack, their hands are kind of tied. And what I want everybody to realize is even if the physical body has never been bloodied or bruised, the psyche is damaged. There is trauma going on when somebody is being threatened on the internet and you don't know where that threat is. You're always looking over your shoulder because you don't know if that person has figured out where you live or where you work. There are all sorts of horrific experiences that can be had because, let's face it, we all know our imaginations are far more fertile and usually can create something far more scary than what is possible in real life. And when that imagination has been triggered by trauma or a fear of somebody who is unknown to you, then the trauma can accelerate and exacerbate at a level that is really terrifying. And one of the things we know about human beings is we are freedom-seeking beings. We operate best when we're allowed to pursue our goals, pursue our dreams, pursue our destinies. And Summer Stephan, who you'll be meeting very shortly, has used the word slavery. Human trafficking becomes human slavery. These people are ensnared into doing things that they don't really want to do. They're trapped, and very often they can't find a way out. They're confined by the shame, by the fear, by the trauma. There's so many things that are a part of this picture, and so they don't see that there's a way out. And I I have been blessed to have been exposed to Summer Stephan at a Rotary meeting where I heard her speak, and to Adam Dodge, who is helping people through his nonprofit. And I said, boy, I want to do everything I can to help these people get the word out about what they know and what they are doing to help victims. Because knowledge helps overcome fear. Knowledge helps us to find that way out. But if we don't know what the path is, if we don't know there's any source of help, we're just trapped. And so here I have with me today two people who have dedicated their lives to ending that trap for people, for eliminating that fear, for helping them find a way out of that darkness. And I wholeheartedly, and I'm very excited to support their work and to let you know about it. Because as most of you know, in my work as a life transitions therapist, I often deal with people who have experienced trauma. And I know that once a trauma has occurred, their PTSD, as we all may or may not know, is a result of trauma. And it doesn't just happen to military personnel. Post-traumatic stress disorder is this compendium of experiences that people have that can range from depression to extreme anxiety, nightmares, hallucinations. They're all sorts of awful pieces of that puzzle. And once a person is in that trap, it's very difficult to get out of it. One of the things I love about the tools that we now have, mind-body tools and the tools of energy psychology, which I use in my practice, is that they help people move through those traumas so much more quickly by using the human body, by tapping meridian points, the same points we use in acupuncture. By working with the subconscious mind, we can help people move through trauma much more quickly today than we ever could before. So I also want to remind you that I give a complimentary 20-minute consult to whether you're dealing with trauma, whether last week we talked about dealing with grief and sadness during the holidays, whatever might be going on in your life that's making things difficult or really painful for you right now. You know, I too want to help people end pain. And we have the tools. We have the processes. We have the agencies to help people. You just need to know about them. And so my goal in this show today is to help you, the listeners, find out what's available for you, what's out there to help you if you're in pain. So if you would like to learn more about this show, Change It Up Radio, please go to changeitupradio.com. There's information there. There's past shows that you can listen to. And we have a lot of wonderful shows. And also, if you want to learn more about me, you'll find that information on paulashaw.com. And after this message, as promised, you're going to meet a very special lady, Summer Stephan, the San Diego District Attorney. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
If you could rebuild your health on a solid foundation, would you do it? Do you have health issues that doctors just can't get to the bottom of, and all they do is prescribe pills to lessen your symptoms? Would you like a better way? Certified FDN practitioner Desiree Lawn founded Autoimmune Health Freedom because she struggled with health issues from childhood that could not be explained. Today, she lives a vibrant life, free of aches and pains and full of energy to enjoy activities with her family. The life you would like to live. How did she do it? Autoimmune Health Freedom has the tools you need. For a free discovery session, call 858-248-1657 or go to autoimmunehealthfreedom.com. That's autoimmunehealthfreedom.com. Yes, you can feel better again. You can rebuild your health. You can have the life you want. Call 858-248-1657.
Desiree Lawn is not licensed by the state of California as a healing arts practitioner.
Hi, I'm Kelly Klein of One Trust Home Loans, Loan Coach Kelly. A while back, my business was in a slump, and it triggered a lot of self-doubt and fear, and it even had me questioning if I'd made the right career choice. So I booked a session with Paula Shaw. And after hearing my predicament, she explained that when we get into negative, self-sabotaging thinking and we are being run over by our limiting beliefs, it's almost impossible to create positive outcomes. She helped me clear those destructive thoughts and beliefs using her perspective on life, business, and now my business is going great. You can reach her at 626-864-0756. That's 626-864-0756. 626-864-0756. Or check her out at paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com.
Welcome back.
My name is Summer Stephan. She is the San Diego District Attorney. And let me tell you just a little bit about her before we begin our chat with her. She's devoted her life to protecting children and families and providing justice to the voiceless and most vulnerable. She is a national leader in the fight against sexual exploitation and human trafficking. And she's served as prosecutor with the San Diego County District Attorney's Office for 29 years. On June 5th of 2018, San Diego County voters overwhelmingly elected Summer as district attorney. She is nicknamed an angel of anti-human trafficking and a modern-day abolitionist. She's a fighter, folks, and I am so delighted that she's here with me today. Welcome, Summer.
Thank you, Paula, for having me on this very important topic.
Oh, it is a very important topic. And I guess I'd love to just begin by asking, how did this become your passion? How did you begin being this fighter for this cause?
Well, I think it's a good question because it shows how this is such an undetected crime. So I've been fighting crime as a prosecutor where we use the law as a shield and a sword to protect people, make them safe, to bring about justice.
Yes.
And I wanted to start a dedicated sex crimes division. Finally got my dream, and we started a vertical division, meaning specialized division for sex crimes. I did not even know there's such a thing as human trafficking here in the United States, where President Lincoln abolished slavery so many years ago.
Yes.
Why would we be dealing with human trafficking in this beautiful, free country? So it didn't occur to me. And then as I formed this unit, and we were recognized as the real life version of Law and Order Special Victims Unit for any fans of Law and Order, which I am. And I read an FBI report that said that San Diego is on the top 13 list for high intensity child prostitution. And that just shocked me because having been out on these undercover operations, I knew that children can't prostitute themselves. How are they going to rent a hotel room, which is where prostitution happens, drive themselves there? That made no sense. So I wanted to know who is pulling the strings. And that's where we began. We found out that the persons pulling the strings are really traffickers. They are sophisticated. They trap these young girls, often runaways, girls from the foster home systems, and they use them essentially, like slave labor, where they are put with these strangers of men that come upon them day after day and night after night, and that this is such a lucrative business. It's the second largest criminal industry in San Diego County.
Oh, my God.
So we decided our fight starts now, and that was in 2005. And we passed laws that made human trafficking not just a violation of federal law, but a violation of state law, because I wanted our state prosecutors to go to battle against this form of exploitation.
Oh, good for you. You know, Summer, when you came and spoke at my Rotary meeting, you described the story of how these girls, young girls, get stalked on the internet, or these guys find them. And can you explain a little bit about that for our listeners?
Right. So when I started fighting human trafficking, there was a lot of it that was going on more in terms of live interaction. As it developed, it is now mostly recruitment and deception using social media, because how easy it is. Every teenager has a phone.
Oh, yeah.
And you could, as a parent, be sitting there thinking that your child is just doing their homework in their bedroom.
Right.
But in reality, they could be getting these messages from these traffickers and pimps and recruiters. We had one case where the trafficker sent 4,000 messages
Oh, my.
to a 15-year-old over several months. And you know how when you're on social media and you're an adult and you're very smart and sophisticated, you still feel like if someone is talking to you and they're talking to you over several months, like that's a friend.
Yes.
Picture now the teenage brain, and you're giving them that much attention,
Yes.
and you're calling them, and you're describing pictures of them and saying how beautiful they look. And finally, the golden hour comes. Now that they feel that they trust you, you're their kind of boyfriend. Now they'll set up a live meeting, and that's when drugs and alcohol are introduced, and compromising pictures are taken that are then used to extort the victims to perform sex acts.
Oh, my. So basically, once this relationship is established, and I totally relate to what you're saying, because I have found in my work with teenagers that at 15, particularly 15, everything is so black and white. And if your parents restrict you, suddenly you hate them, and life is horrible, and everything is never going to be good again, right? So then along comes this knight in shining armor, so to speak, who's saying all the right things. The level of vulnerability is huge, huge.
It is. And when we start to listen in and look at these text messages, it is like these traffickers have a psychology degree. They are using such deception, and the tangled web that you described is so real for us when we see it and we read it. It is picking out every single vulnerability that this child has and using it for their favor to completely take control, because human trafficking, like domestic violence, it's about control and dominion and making that person feel that they do not have a choice anymore.
Exactly. So how do they hone in on who they're going to start communicating with?
Sex trafficking, not counting labor trafficking, is about an $810 million industry every year. Prostitution, because you're talking about this is a resaleable product. I hate saying that about precious human beings,
Yes.
but you're selling them over and over. It's like ordering pizza online. This is how dehumanizing it is. And so because of that, what they do, this is a business. They'll send hundreds of messages over Facebook, over Snapchat, over Twitter, and things. All they need is that one child that responds.
Oh, so they go broad and then somebody responds to them.
Exactly. As soon as they
see.
get that response, even if it's, you know, how people feel like they want to be polite,
Yes.
and they get a response, a polite, even a response like, I'm not interested. That's a response. They now start to move into a conversation. So it's not that they only target one child, they target a whole blanket of our children.
I see.
And then they start to hone in on the ones that respond where they see a vulnerability. You know, you mentioned parents fighting with their children. As soon as a child posts online that they're upset with their mother.
Yes.
That is a perfect target. They're
Yes.
going to come in and talk to that child. As soon as a child is saying they're being restricted and that they're being treated like a child, there comes the messages about how mature and smart they seem. So this is a true deception game.
Wow. And so who are they targeting? Is it just poverty kids? Is it kids in public schools? Who are they, Summer?
So we used to see a lot more variation depending on poverty and socioeconomic status. But because of the social media and that all our kids have phones and tablets, now we are seeing it across every town and every family. Yes, it is still higher for girls and boys with higher vulnerabilities of poverty, foster care, coming from a home where there was early sexual abuse
Yes.
or domestic violence. That's going to
Yes.
make them more of a sitting duck. But we are seeing.
All right, we'll be right back.
Good.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Hi, Paula Shaw here. I'm so delighted to share with you that LifeWave has become our newest sponsor on Change It Up Radio. My family and I all use their tiny wearable patch technology, and the results are life-changing. My sister had lupus for over 20 years and has never slept well. Now she does. My mom's frozen shoulders simply went away. My favorite is the age-reversing X39, a patch engineered to activate stem cells. Yeah, it's true. They really work to improve how you look, feel, perform, and heal. LifeWave patches use a patented form of phototherapy, using frequencies of light to safely boost health and wellness at the cellular level with no drugs. Learn more online by visiting lifewave.com. That's lifewave.com.
Is living in today's fast-paced world making you feel stressed and out of balance? Are anxiety, sleeplessness, depression, lack of focus, or weight gain robbing you of your relationship and your energy? If you're ready for change, you need to call Paula Shaw. Paula helps you identify and eliminate self-sabotaging thinking and behavior. Using a wide variety of mind-body techniques, she provides her clients with the most effective processes for their specific needs. To book a session with Paula, call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234. Is living in today's fast-paced world making you feel stressed and out of balance?
Welcome
Are anxiety,
back to Change It Up.
sleeplessness,
Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio. I am here in studio today with Summer Stephan, the San Diego District Attorney, and we are talking about her fight to save our children from human trafficking. So in our last segment, Summer, we were talking about how the girls get ensnared into these situations where they're doing compromising things, pictures are taken, and now they're blackmailed, so to speak, to keep on engaging in prostitution. But I find myself wondering, why don't they go to their parents, or why don't they go to the school counselor? Why don't they get out?
That's a great question. So in San Diego, we have about 5,000 victims of sex trafficking every year, and the average age is 16 years old.
Oh, my.
That's the age of entry. So you have to remember this is such a young person, and they're still developing. And now this terrible experience comes early in their life. And because human trafficking is not like a robbery where you know you're a victim, somebody took your car, they took your wallet.
Right.
It is a different kind of crime. It's built on deception and on getting a sort of consent when it's not really consent. So victims actually don't know that they're victims. That is the number one obstacle, and that's why it is so important to get the word out there that anyone who uses a child for sex, for commercial profit, that is a very serious crime. That child is a victim. And even if the person is an adult, the duress, the coercion, the force, that makes it human trafficking.
I see.
But victims don't know. They think it's my fault. I did something wrong. I'm the one who agreed. I'm the one who was suckered in. So it makes it, they're not calling 911. This is why it is so important to me as your district attorney to make sure that the community has eyes and ears.
Yes.
That teachers and counselors are noticing the difference that they're seeing in children, in truancy, in absences, in other things, other red flags, tattoos, objects like purses and things that the child doesn't seem like they would normally afford it. Noticing those things is really, really important because victims need us to step in.
And you are doing programs, right? Or your team's doing programs. Tell us about that, because you're trying to inform the parents and the teachers and all of the people who could help these kids, right?
Exactly. So this is a multi-fight. We're fighting it from every end. Prosecution, we have a 24/7 human trafficking task force. There's a hotline that anyone can call any time of day or night and say, I'm seeing something that's suspicious. And those calls come into our task force. And that number is really easy to remember, 888-3737-888.
Let's give that one more time.
Yeah, 888-3737-888. Put that in your phone. Maybe 37 is your favorite number now. And if you see something that just looks odd, an older man with a younger child, they don't look like they're part of the same family, they're checking into a hotel, the victim is not really speaking for herself or himself. All of those things are red flags. So call that number and they will connect with the task force. We have a fighting team at the DA's office. But that prosecution is not enough. We need prevention. We need protection for the victims. So we work with many organizations on protecting and restoring those victims, the PTSD you talked about. That's critical. And then the last and most important step is the prevention. You know, our kids are smart, but we are failing them because we don't talk to them about these very important issues. We keep stranger danger when in fact 90% of the harm that comes to our kids is not from a stranger, but from someone who enters their circle of trust, snares them, right? I mean, you see it. And so we need to build resiliency around them. There's a program that I helped develop with our community partners called the Human Trafficking Collective. It's free to every school to provide this education to our kids, to our teachers. And it goes along with 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade. And it helps our kids know the signs, know when they're getting a job offer for modeling, that it sounds too good to be true. They know that they can get out if they get in trouble, that we're here to help them. That is so important.
Oh, yes. So you're actually going into the schools, doing like assemblies and teaching kids about this trap that's out there that they can get stuck in?
We are doing that, but also to make sure that every kid gets a chance to hear us. We have, 300,000 kids in
Yes.
San Diego that are
Yes.
school age. We have an online program
Oh, good.
that coordinates with curriculum, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade.
Oh, great.
And it's so easy and accessible, and it's a verified, validated program. So we've asked every school to adopt that program at no cost. And we'll ask our parents, anyone who's listening, to ask their school, have you implemented the program that the district attorney is talking about?
And its name again, Summer, is?
It's the Human Trafficking Collective,
Okay.
Education Prevention Collective, and it's called Protect. And there's two other parts to it, like a drama part called No More, and then a resiliency building part that is called the Roots Project. And this involves, I can't forget the boys here. The boys can be victims. They can
Yes.
also be offenders. And it's very important that the boys learn early that buying a human being for sex is terrible because you are supporting human trafficking.
Right.
So the buyers have a role in this too.
And I'm so glad you brought up boys because I hadn't mentioned that, but are boys also victims in this way we were describing where the contact happens through social media and then eventually they get ensnared the same way?
We see boys ensnared in a similar way, but we also see a higher percentage of boys that are runaways from an abusive home that are drawn in by an older male that offers shelter and food. And then that relationship turns into pornography, videotaping, and then more people being brought in for prostitution. So it's a little bit different, but it's still the same exploitation. It's still horrible. We still, of course, see that our highest rate of buyers are men, and that this $810 million is coming from people paying for sex. That's what's lining the pockets of the traffickers and making them continue. It's a supply and demand. So we need to remove our cultural acceptance for buying human beings
Yes.
for sex because that's not a healthy relationship.
Oh, no.
It's not good for their families, and it is also promoting human trafficking.
And is the prostitution, is it happening here or are they taking them across the border to Mexico?
We do see some going across the border, but it is happening across mostly our hotels, some Airbnb that are being used that way, like brothels.
Yes.
And so mostly it is domestic. I should mention that 80% of our victims of sex trafficking are American girls. 80%.
80%.
Yes. So you could see that anyone in our community can become a victim. This is everyone's issue, and the way that we fight it is by all of us getting informed about it and talking about it with our children, telling them these stories, asking them to be careful what they post online.
Yes. I think that's huge. I love it that, and what we're doing today and what you're doing every day is also teaching the parents, start tuning in on their kids because as you've pointed out today, this is not just about children in poverty circumstances. This could be at the private schools, at the finest schools in San Diego.
Yes.
We still have emotional issues that teenagers go through. We still have black and white thinking. We still have parents and kids struggling. And then these perpetrators move in looking like the hero. And I think I remember you saying when I first heard you speak, sometimes these girls continue the prostitution because this guy acts like he's their boyfriend and he's asking them to do this for him to help them financially and all that, right?
Exactly, because once they feel ashamed and separated and isolated from their families, they want to keep the only relationship they have.
Yes.
because they
good
now
point.
don't even feel like they fit in with their normal family anymore.
Exactly.
And so they continue to do anything that is being asked of them. And this field, this enslavement causes high rates of suicide, death,
Oh, yes.
abuse, disease. And that's why I am so passionate about making sure that our kids get the life they deserve, not the life that someone else chose them for.
Absolutely. What a perfect ending statement, Summer. And I want to say that I'm passionate about helping you in this goal because it's a huge thing that you're doing and it's so important. And it's such a travesty upon innocent victims. So anything that we can do here to support you, we're on board. And I just thank you for leading the charge the way you have. I know you give countless hours to this, and you are the face of, the fight against human trafficking in San Diego. And thank you so much for making time to be with us today. And one more time, let's give them that number, the hotline. You can call if you suspect that something is going on that's amiss, that it looks like human trafficking, is 888-3737-888. All right, and after this message, we'll be back with someone who's dealing with another part of this tangled web, Adam Dodge. We'll be right back. Thank you, Summer.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Jack Gutman survived World War II and then returned home to the hardest fight of his life with PTSD and alcoholism. Now at age 93, he's a businessman and comedian, sharing his message of recovery and hope in his new book, One Veteran's Journey to Heal the Wounds of War, helping our heroes and anyone who has experienced PTSD find happiness again. Get Jack Gutman's new book, One Veteran's Journey to Heal the Wounds of War, at Amazon.com. Or to order a signed copy, call 714-525-4954.
For those looking to improve their lives, there's nobody better to turn to than Paula Shaw. Paula helps people regain successful lives by identifying and eliminating self-sabotaging behavior using a multitude of mind-body techniques to identify and resolve their core issues. Working with a wide variety of healing modalities, she provides her clients with the most effective process for their specific needs. To book a session with Paula, call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio. And in this segment, we are going to be talking to Adam Dodge. He is the founder of NTAB, and I'm going to let him tell you what NTAB stands for. But his organization is ntab.org. He is dedicated to addressing existing and future threats posed by technology to victims of crime and gender violence. He spends a great deal of his time delivering innovative technology-enabled abuse trainings to victim-serving organizations and government agencies around the world. And I am hoping that I'm hooking him up with Stephan today because they are both doing this amazing work. And by the way, they both went to McGeorge School of Law. So I think that's a pretty amazing coincidence. Adam, are you there?
I am here. Hello, Paula.
Welcome. I'm so delighted to have you here on this show. Stephan and I have been talking about what I'm calling a tangled web of abuse. That's the title of this show. And you fit right into this because I think you're both leading the charge to fight what happens in that abuse in different ways. So tell us about the mission of NTAB and what does NTAB stand for?
Sure. So NTAB stands for Ending Technology-Enabled Abuse. And our mission is really to provide training and resources to victim-serving professionals around the world to address the ways in which technology is misused and weaponized to harm vulnerable victims of crime, such as victims of domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking, elder abuse, and human trafficking.
So, what exactly is technology-enabled abuse?
Sure. So I'm very careful not to call it technology abuse because I feel like technology abuse could be confused for somebody who simply overuses technology. So
Right.
technology-enabled abuse is really refers to the ways in which familiar forms of abuse that we've been dealing with for a long time, things like stalking or threats or exerting power and control over someone, the ways in which those forms of abuse are implemented through technology. So via the internet or social media or through someone's smartphone or other device, things like that.
I see. So, what is a typical kind of case that you would be dealing with?
Sure. I think a lot of folks find this area particularly challenging because the perpetrator of this type of harm often uses the anonymity provided by the internet to, by creating a fake account or a fake social media profile, uses that anonymity to harm someone without fear of being caught or being held accountable. So that could look like somebody calling or emailing or messaging you on your social media platform or to your email account, saying hurtful things, saying harassing things, saying threatening things, sending photographs of an intimate nature and things like that. We see a lot of that kind of anonymous online harassment.
And because, Summer and I have been talking about the fact that our teenagers particularly are so focused on social media that the things that they hear on social media or to be threatened to be made to look bad on social media, that holds a lot of power and it creates a lot of fear in the victims, doesn't it?
It really does. And I think that historically we've sort of viewed online harm as something that is, quote unquote, less than when compared with harm that occurs offline. But the reality is, and this is especially true with young people, the way they interact with the world, the way they are seen, the way that they view themselves is via their communities and their connections to social media and online presence. And so when you hurt them through those channels, they feel that harm in real life. And you see it, they can withdraw from their communities, they can self-harm, they can suffer post-traumatic stress, depression, a variety of really different awful forms of harm can result from, quote unquote, online abuse that most folks don't realize that it can be that devastating.
I'm so glad that you made that point, Adam, because I was saying earlier, I have worked with people who have been through this cyber stalking kind of thing. And it's sort of like the police can't, have to kind of take the position if you're not bloody or bruised, if there hasn't been a physical attack, there's not much we can do. But you're so right that the emotional harm, the mental damage that's being done by this unknown threat constantly lurking, and you don't know when or if that person will show up in your physical reality. So that ongoing torture, so to speak, is devastating for people, really damaging.
Absolutely. It's that fear of the unknown, not knowing when or where an attack or a threat can come from, and then to feel like you don't have or are unable to access resources, whether that's the criminal justice system or civil restraining orders, et cetera, being able to access resources that will immediately remedy the harm that you're experiencing. And I'm not saying that our systems are not doing their jobs. It's very difficult to locate and identify a perpetrator of online harm, and it requires skill and resources and time that a lot of folks just don't have, especially when we're seeing such a huge spike in this form of abuse.
Mm-hmm. So if someone comes to you, let's say a young woman comes to you and she's being stalked, what can you do to help her?
Sure. So, traditionally, I'm more often working with people, the folks on the front lines who are helping that young woman. But if I do get a lot of folks coming to me directly asking for assistance. And if they're being stalked online can look like a variety of different things. I always start off with saying what you don't do. And what you don't do is if someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm being harassed on social media, I think a lot of folks have the inclination to say, well, why don't you get off social media? Why don't you terminate your account? Because that'll solve your problem. But what that is a form of victim blaming, because we're immediately focusing on the behavior of the victim and saying, well, why don't you do this? Instead of saying, why doesn't this person stop harassing you? So it's really important to let that person know that they don't have to get off social media if they don't want to. That may be a very isolating experience for them and disconnect them from their community. So it's really about empowering the victim with options. So certainly they could get off social media, or they could, also make their social media accounts private. They could start using messaging apps like Signal or Telegram to communicate with friends and family that will ensure that no one's impersonating them or trying to mimic them or harass their friends and family, because they'll be communicating through secure channels. So little things like that they can do to chip away at an environment that is slowly being, or is an environment that somebody is trying to slowly take control of from the victim. There are little things they can do like that to reclaim and take ownership of their digital lives. Which
I'm sure would help them feel a little safer, a little more powerful, because the helplessness has got to be a huge factor in this. And I know, Adam, that you're spending a lot of time these days training people who are serving victims. So tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So I'm really fortunate to get to work with a lot of different professionals who work in some capacity with victims, and that's primarily been with nonprofit agencies, law enforcement, universities, folks that work in Title IX offices or campus advocacy groups, and then our state's court systems as well, because they really need to have a better handle of how technology is manifesting in the family law and domestic violence and criminal cases that they're interacting with. So I'm working with them to really raise awareness about how common this form of abuse is, red flags, and then ways in which they can start addressing or verifying whether tech-enabled abuse has actually taken place in a case that they're working on.
And if people want to contact you to receive this training, Adam, what's a good number or website that they can get you at?
Yeah, thank you. They can reach me they can visit our website, which is, as you mentioned, endtab.org, or they're more than welcome to email me. My email address is adam@endtab.org, and I'm happy to help folks any way I can, because I really am so passionate about this area, because I feel like it's an area that is really ruining people's lives, but unfortunately we haven't given it enough attention on the victim serving professional side. And so I'm always very excited to talk to folks and very passionate to roll up my sleeves and get into it and get the work done.
And we are so glad that people like you are out there. We have just a minute left, Adam. Can you give a couple of tips that our listeners might be able to use to help them stay safe online?
Oh, there's so many.
Could we have three? There really are. Maybe.
Here's one I would recommend, because I feel like whether you're a victim of intimate partner violence or not, I feel like this is sort of a universal tip, which is there's a lot of data brokers out there that resell our information. But the good news is you can go onto those websites and you can opt out. And that makes it more difficult for somebody to try to locate your address, your email, or your phone number, things like that. So I always encourage folks to go to websites like Spokio or Intellis or whitepages.com and follow the protocols to remove themselves from those websites. Because when you think about it, if someone's trying to find you and they're not a sophisticated cyber criminal and they're just somebody who wants to get information, that's where they're going to go, or they're going to Google you. And I always encourage people to Google themselves and see what type of information comes up, because maybe there's something out there that they don't want publicized. And if it shows up in a Google search, they can go to that website and they can take steps to have that data removed as well.
Thank you so much, Adam. We're going to have you back because you have a lot to share. And I'm looking forward to you and Summer connecting and leading the charge together because you're both doing beautiful work. Thank you to both of you for being with me today. And thank you to our listeners. You can hear us on AM 1170 and 96.1 FM, Sunday evenings at 9. And we're on every major podcast platform. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Change It Up with life transitions expert, speaker, and best-selling author, Paula Shaw. Join the Change It Up movement with Paula Shaw as we explore topics that inspire, welcome change, and create a new kind of conversation. To learn more about Paula, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities, visit changeitupradio.com. Whether you're feeling happy, sad, mad, or glad, it never hurts to change it up.
So Facebook live stream viewers, thank you for being with us. Summer, thank you. It was an incredible contribution you made today.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you for all the listeners because this is really important and it can save a life.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, please share this show and talk about this to your friends and family. And we'll see you next week on Change It Up Radio. Bye-bye. All right, I'm going to turn that off.